The moonlight hit the forest in splinters, gold and silver tangled across branches bigger than ships. Lise ducked past a low-hanging bough, her heart pounding, breath steaming in the night air. Every tale she'd ever heard about the Gilded Grove flashed behind her eyes. Lost travelers, voices in the leaves, mirrors that showed things you could never forget. Still, she pressed on. Her satchel of faded field books and a battered lantern were all she carried with her from the dying world outside. Just a week before, her home lay green and safe in the valley. Now the soil was dust and crops withered before their time. Animals vanished from the woodlands as if chased by a silent storm. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. No one enters the grove unless they're willing to pay for what they find. A twig snapped. Lise froze. Something watched her from the brush, just shadows at first, until a faint gold shimmer revealed an owl perched above, feathers burning with violet light. The air smelled of sap and thunderstorms. She moved carefully, soft steps muffled by moss, her eyes darting to every glint between the ancient trunks. Ahead, a tree twice her height loomed, its bark gleaming like coin. She reached out, hesitant, but a sharp voice cut through the silence. "Looking for something, child?" Lise spun. A spectral woman stood behind her, almost transparent, hair threaded with leaf and gold. I need to find the source of the blight," Lise forced herself to say. "I have to save my people." The woman's eyes flickered. "You're bold, but so were the others." "Do you know the price, Lise Corwin?" Lisa's throat tightened at the sound of her name. "Tell me," she whispered. The guardian stepped forward, vine-like hands reaching for the trembling lantern. "The grove doesn't give without taking. Will you pay with memory or with blood?" Lise thought of home, of empty fields and her parents' tired faces. She squared her shoulders. "If that's what it takes, I'll pay." The woman's silent smile glimmered with something like sadness, or was it hope? Branches stirred overhead as if the very forest leaned in to listen. The story of the grove and of Lise began anew. Fog drifted low, curling around Lise's ankles as she followed the spectral woman deeper into the grove. The golden trees grew closer together here, blocking out the moon. More eyes gleamed in the shadows, foxes with jewel-bright fur, rabbits crowned in tiny golden thorns. None seemed afraid of Lise. The air hummed, heavy with stories left unsaid. "Why did you say my name?" Lise asked, voice barely a whisper. The guardian's smile was weary. "Names and memories root deeper here than anywhere else. The grove has long remembered your kind." Lise gripped her lantern tighter. "You know about the blight? The dying crops?" A bitter wind swept between them. The guardian gestured, and tangled vines parted, revealing a gnarled trunk split open to show bright golden sap flowing within. "Your world withers, yet life flourishes here. The wound in the land is not from famine alone. You must see what was hidden." She gestured Lise forward. Heart thudding, Lise reached out and touched the gold-lit bark. In an instant, the grove's voice mocked thunder, visions flooding her mind. She stood at the center of her childhood home, but it was long ago. Her ancestors tending gardens, laughter ringing as rain fell soft, then a shadow, black and unyielding, creeping through the crops. Snapping back, Lise gasped, her knees buckling. The guardian steadied her. "You've seen it now, what was and what could be, but the truth comes in pieces. Will you risk another memory?" Lise wiped her face, wrangling her fear. "If these memories hold the cure, show me everything." The guardian's lips parted, shining with sorrow and hope. "Not all memories grant healing, Lise. Sometimes they demand sacrifice." Branches above rustled as the breeze thickened. From the darkness, two more ghostly figures approached, a stooped old man smelling of damp earth and a child with bark for skin. The child grinned. "We are the grove's keepers. To find the cure, you must cross the rootway. There, what you fear most will greet you." Lisa's hands shook, but she looked each spirit in the eye. "I'm not leaving until I've saved my people." The old man's voice rumbled like roots shifting deep underground. "Courage feeds this wood, girl. Remember, courage, not memories alone, is what must guide you through." Guided by 3 spectral hands, Lise pressed on, each step into the grove, twisting her fate ever tighter. And behind her, the ancient trees seemed to whisper their approval. The rootway began at a break in the earth where tangled roots arched over a black creek, creating a natural bridge. Golden leaves drifted down onto the water and vanished with a sizzle. Lise hesitated, peering into the depths. Shapeless things moved below, memories maybe, or something far older. The child with bark for skin tugged her sleeve. You can't turn back. The grove listens to those who move forward, not those who doubt. Lise nodded, swallowing her fear. The three guardians fell in around her, silent but watchful. She took her first step. Cold flared up her leg where the root touched her boot, but she gritted her teeth and kept going. Each stride felt heavier, the grove pressing questions into her mind. Did she truly believe she could lift the blight? Was she strong enough to carry a burden none before her had managed? Whispers wound through the air. Shadows along the banks twisted into familiar shapes. Her father, planting seeds with tired hands. Her mother, singing lullabies at dusk. Each memory beckoned her to linger, to trade resolve for safety. The lantern's warm glow faltered, flickering in time with Lisa's heartbeat. You must keep your memories close, murmured the old man, voice gentle but stern. The rootway tempts you to wander within yourself and lose your place in the world. I have to remember why I came, Lise whispered, clutching the field books at her side. For my family, for everyone. A vine snaked across her path. She stepped over it, and the vision shifted. She was 5 again, frightened in a storm, her father scooping her up and promising that every night ends in morning. The memory tugged at her, urging her to rest, to let the grove consume her worries. With a gasp, Lise pressed on, sweat beading her brow. I won't forget who I am, she said aloud, and the vision shattered, a shower of gold dust swirling away. The guardians watched, silent approval in their lantern-lit eyes. The rootway yielded at her feet, the roots parting to reveal a steep slope covered in faintly glowing moss. At its base, a ring of trees shimmered with a light that pulsed like a heartbeat, alive, aware, and waiting for her approach. Courage yet guides you, whispered the child, and Lise felt a strength deep within, fueled not by fear, but resolve. The rootway lay behind her now, and whatever tests the grove would bring next, she knew she could take the first step. The moss glowed richer as Lise descended, painting her boots and hem in faint gold. Every inhale tasted of honey and ozone. At the bottom of the slope, the trees pressed close in a perfect circle. Their trunks hummed with whispered echoes, each one a story poised to spill from ancient bark. The guardians halted just beyond the ring. The spectral woman's hair wove gently in a breeze that Lise did not feel. This is the heart of the grove. Few survive the truth it holds. Lise hesitated. What will I see in there? Your own heart reflected, and the grove's heart entwined with yours, replied the old man, his face grave. Nothing leaves this place unmarked. The bark child pressed its hand to Lisa's own and laughed, the sound bright but oddly sad. Your lineage will open the way. Listen closely or be lost. Lise stepped forward, and the ground pulsed under her feet. Warm gold flowed from the roots, swirling between her toes and circling up her legs. The world spun. She was somewhere else, a memory but not hers. She saw her grandmother kneeling in the dusk, hands buried in earth, reciting words Les couldn't understand. Nearby, saplings shimmered, tiny gold-threaded trees. A man in green robes, face half hidden, argued in sharp, urgent whispers. You cannot bind the grove's will. We have no choice, her grandmother replied, tears streaking gold down her cheeks. The cost is memory, not blood. Our children's children will thank us. The vision shifted. Flames licked through the woods, shadowy figures twisting and roiling. Screams lingered like smoke, then vanished as a great tree rose from the ashes, roots piercing the world itself. Lise staggered, heart racing. The gold light faded. She stood once more at the center of the ring, breath shaking. The old man's voice echoed. You carry the blood of those who bound the grove's memory. Your heritage is the key and the curse. Les's eyes widened. The blight? It started because of us? My family? The spectral woman stepped inside the ring, her hand gentle on Lisa's shoulder. Not started, but intertwined. To heal the land, you must unbind what was bound. A rumbling shook the grove. The trees bent inward, their voices rising together. Are you willing to bear what your ancestors could not? Lisa's resolve threatened to crumble under the weight of that question. For the sake of her people, she would need to break ancient chains, even if doing so risked everything she remembered, loved, or believed herself to be. Lise knelt in the center of the circle, golden moss catching the tear that slid down her cheek. The truth of her blood pulled at her, a knot of guilt and wonder. Around her, the grove's guardians watched silently, their forms fading between moonlight and mist. "How do I unbind what was bound?" Lise asked, her voice trembling but steady. "What must I do?" The old man extended a gnarled hand, palm up. "Sacrifice and remembrance. Not all things can be undone, but the heart willing to suffer for others may mend what pride has broken." Lise lifted her lantern. "If it costs me memories, let them be mine. Not my family's or my people's. I came here knowing I might not return the same." The spectral woman knelt beside Lise. "But what memory are you willing to lose, Lise Corwin? The grove will not take at random." Lise remembered her childhood, her mother's hands tending gardens, the scent of rain on warm soil, laughter ringing in the dusk. Each memory was a root anchoring her soul. To surrender even one felt like losing color from the world. The bark child stepped into the circle and placed a tiny wooden hand against Lisa's heart. "The grove will choose from your fear the thing you most dread to lose." A golden light gathered, shaped itself into a moving mirror. Inside it flickered the night Lise found her father collapsed in the field, sick and fading. She'd run to him, desperate, and promised him the world would heal, that she would make it right. She felt his hands, frail but warm, pressed to her cheeks. To lose this memory would be to forget the cause that brought her here. She tried to speak, but only a hiss of breath escaped. "Isn't there another way?" "Sacrifice makes the unbinding real," the spectral woman whispered. "But sometimes the grove offers a trial, a test of will. If you pass, you may keep what you most cherish." "What must I do?" Lys demanded, eyes blazing. "Step deeper," said the bark child. "Face the vision, refuse to let go. Only then may the grove grant mercy." Heart pounding, Lys stepped into the golden mirror. Shadows crashed over her. Pain, hope, all that made her whole. She found herself standing in the blighted fields, her father's silhouette ahead, calling her name. And the grove waited, silent and watchful, to see if Lys would fight for memory, or relinquish what she loved most for a hope as old as the trees themselves. Lys sprinted across the visionscape, her feet thudding against the familiar dust of the blighted fields. Above, the sky churned with honey-colored clouds that twisted and swirled, threatening to sweep away her father's shape ahead. Each step thickened the air around her, memories clinging to her like dew. "Papa?" she cried, her voice echoing strangely. He turned, face gentle and tired, reaching toward her with those same trembling hands. Somehow, Lise knew this was not her true father, but the grove's trial-given form. A test, her chance. "You shouldn't be here, little sprout," the vision father whispered, sadness in his gaze. "Let go of this pain and walk into the future." Tears streamed down Lisa's cheeks. "I can't. I won't." She ran to him, heart pounding, feeling the earth's ache beneath her boots. "If I let go, I lose why I came. I lose you. I lose myself." The clouds rumbled above, the golden wind picking up. Shadows advanced along the edge of the field, memories hungry to devour what held her together. The old man's voice echoed from somewhere unseen. "You must anchor yourself, speak your truth, hold to it." Lise squared her shoulders. She cupped her hands around the vision of her father's. "You once told me every night ends in morning. You believed in me. I needed you then, and I need you now. I will not surrender this." The figure's face softened, flickering in and out like a guttering flame. The wind howled, trying to tear them apart, but Lise clung tighter, forcing herself to remember every detail. The way he smiled, the low timbre of his stories, the scent of soil on his hands. Still the world quaked around her. "Why keep this pain?" the vision father pleaded. "You could be free." "Pain is proof of love," Les shouted into the storm. "It keeps me trying. It's why I fight for my home." The thunder stilled. The shadows drew back. The golden glow of the grove spilled into the vision, healing cracks in the earth, coaxing seed and sprout from withered land. Her father's image brightened, then gently stepped back into the gold. Lise blinked, and the vision faded. She was back in the ring of trees, lantern clutched tight, her memory and resolve intact. The spectral guardians greeted her with pride gleaming in their eyes. The bark child grinned. "You kept your root. The grove listens now." The golden trees shuddered as their bark split open, revealing a hidden path spiraling deeper than any Lise had yet seen, the grove opening its heart because she had kept her own. "You haven't yet won," warned the spectral woman. "But what you seek is nearer than ever. Be brave, Lise Corwin. The true trial is coming." Lise gazed into the newly opened path, which wound in impossible spirals, vanishing under the twisted roots of gold-lit trees. A hush blanketed the grove, heavier than before. Even the guardians moved with quiet reverence now. Lise drew in a breath, squaring her shoulders as she stepped forward, each stride a promise not just to her people, but to the haunted earth beneath her feet. The spiral path pressed her deeper than she imagined the forest could go. The air thickened with old magic, so alive it tingled on her skin. Glimmers danced at the edges of her vision, fragments of memory made visible. She saw people from the valley, lovers and rivals, children she once played with, all walking onward through the ages. Their images cracked and reformed as if the grove reimagined their stories again and again. "What is this place?" Lise asked, her voice muffled by mossy walls. The old man leaned in beside her, his eyes shining with quiet wisdom. "It is the memory beneath all memories, a crossroads of what was and what could yet be. All who bound the grove, all who sought to heal or exploit it, passed through here." Lise watched as one vision tugged at her heart, a young woman, a botanist like herself, kneeling by a sickened seedling, determined but alone. It was her grandmother, years before Lise was ever born, struggling with the same despair. "Why do the same wounds return through generations?" Lise murmured, voice cracking. "If the grove's magic is so great, why do we keep failing?" The bark child scampered to her side. "Magic cannot heal what is forgotten. The grove's roots tangle with regret. But you, Lise, you have chosen to remember." Ahead, the tunnel narrowed to a chamber lit by a single shaft of silvery gold. In the center, a tree far older than the rest awaited, its trunk wide as a cottage, blackened by old scars, yet pulsing with molten veins of light. The guardians stopped at the threshold. "Only you may enter," the spectral woman said. "We can guide, but you must ask the final question." Lisa's voice was raw but steady. "How do I ask the grove for what must be healed?" The guardians faded back, voices layered as wind in many tongues. "Open your heart, Lys Corwin. Promise nothing for yourself. Ask for the world that remembers. Ask for a future that grows." Lise stepped into the golden light, heart pounding, and reached out to touch the ancient bark. The warmth was gentle, then searing. A pulse of memory flooded her, faster and brighter than anything before, and she realized a great truth. The grove would answer not only to grief or sacrifice, but to hope. She steadied herself, swallowing fear. In the next moment, a crack split the bark before her, and a voice older than the wind rumbled from within the tree, demanding, "Why must the world heal? What are you willing to give for its future, Lys Corwin?" As the golden light swirled around her, Lise prepared to answer with everything she had ever believed. The grove's ancient voice rang through Lisa's bones, shaking every certainty she carried. The scarred tree awaited her answer, roots tense, boughs shimmering with shifting faces from the past. Lise steadied herself beneath that golden gaze. She could sense the presence of all who had come before, her grandmother, her lost ancestors, even the spectral guardians who lingered just beyond the light's reach. She knelt before the tree, hands trembling but sure. "The world must heal because its memory is suffering," Lise said, voice echoing across the hidden chamber. "Without hope and forgiveness, we lose ourselves, and what is a future built on forgetting?" From above, slow tears of golden sap dripped onto her hands. The air hummed with expectation. The grove pressed again, voice low and thunderous. "And what will you give for such a future, Lys Corwin?" Lise squeezed her eyes shut, searching her soul. For a moment she was tempted to offer anything. The memories she clung to, the core of her identity, the ache she carried from her father and her homeland's pain. But a sudden clarity sharpened her resolve. The grove did not want empty sacrifice or mindless loss. It wanted her truth. "I will live in remembrance," she declared. "I will teach my people and all who follow to cherish what we've lost and what remains. No more binding, no more hiding from sorrow. My promise is hope. I will make sure the grove's story, and my family's part in it, is never forgotten." The bark heaved beneath her palm. Faces flickered, her own, her father's, her grandmother's, each shining with bittersweet pride. The gold veins in the tree surged, illuminating the whole chamber, until Lys felt as if she were at the heart of the sun itself. For an instant she saw all the valley healed, green bursting from scarred earth, animals returning, her people laughing in the fields. Yet in that moment of vision a brutal cold swept in, a final test. The chamber darkened. Jagged shadows shaped themselves into spectral guardians not of hope but of regret. They circled, their voices biting. You ask for forgiveness, but wounds run deep. One must stay, one must always stay to carry the grove's sorrow. Lysa's heart stuttered. Stay? You mean never leave? A vision of her future flashed. Alone beneath the golden trees, memory fading day by day, the outside world just a distant ache. Or, another voice whispered, softer than dusk, find another way. Unbind the sorrow, not by taking it on, but by teaching others how to bear it together. Torn between sacrifice and hope, Lys looked around, the weight of lifetimes on her shoulders. The roots trembled with uncertainty. To be the grove's final guardian, or to trust her people again with the truth? The choice hovered before her, the fate of land and memory awaiting her answer. Lys knelt beneath the shimmering roots, the grove's ultimatum ringing in her mind. It demanded a guardian, yet also offered the faintest promise that things could change. She felt fragile, balanced on the line between self-sacrifice and the courage to ask others for help. The golden light dimmed, then pulsed, awaiting her decision. "Must I do this alone?" she whispered, voice breaking. The scarred tree shook. Golden leaves tumbled down, echoing with 100 lost voices. For a long moment, no answer came. Then shadows shifted, and the spectral guardians swept in close. The old man crouched beside her, his eyes both kind and unbearably sad. "Lys, no one mends a wound by closing it off forever," he said, laying a ghostly hand over hers. "The grove gave each of us a chance, but we chose to forget instead of forgive. Do not repeat our mistake." The bark child, more rooted to hope than the others, slipped into the light. "If one must stay, let it be all of us. Let us each share the pain and the promise. Teach your people to keep the story alive, and sorrow will never take root so deeply again." Lys looked from guardian to guardian, her resolve turning to steel. The vision of life alone in the grove's depths haunted her, but the chance to unite the valley, to teach them the truth of memory and hope, burned even brighter. "I won't abandon the world to its sorrow," she said, her voice drawing strength from the ancient trees. "I will return, gather everyone, and together we'll keep the grove's memory without another lonely sacrifice. The past will not be hidden anymore." The grove paused, considering. Its voice grew softer, more thoughtful. "You would trust those who let the wound fester, who bound us in silence?" Lys nodded, defiant. "If we are to heal, we must stop dividing memory and life. We must face pain and hope together." As the scarred tree's roots unraveled from its sorrowful knot, the chamber brightened once more. The guardians exchanged glances, relief mingled with pride. "You are the first to choose trust, not forgetting," the spectral woman murmured. Lys reached out, taking a hand from each guardian, feeling the rush of centuries flow through her. The visions of her family and ancestors shimmered, smiling, mourning, enduring. And for the first time, Lys didn't feel alone under the golden canopy. But outside the grove, the valley was dying. The blight still crept across field and forest. The true test waited beyond these roots. With her promise made, and the grove's blessing trembling in her veins, Lys prepared to return home, to face her people, and offer them the choice she had been given. Yet as she turned for the spiral path upward, a rumble split the earth, and the grove's oldest guardian, massive, shadowed, far older than all the others, emerged, blocking her way. Its eyes were deep-set lights, filled with both judgment and grief. "One task remains, Lys Corwin. Before the world heals, you must answer for the pain that gave birth to the blight." As the roots sealed the exit behind her, Lys realized facing the valley would not be enough. The heart of the blight itself waited here, and it would not let her pass without a reckoning. Lys's knees trembled as the grove's oldest guardian towered before her, blocking out the golden light. Its form shifted with centuries of suffering, branches heavy with broken dreams, eyes deep and knowing as the midnight soil. "Why do you fear the pain at the root of your world, Lys Corwin?" the Ancient One asked, its voice like the clash of storms. "Do you believe merely sharing memory and hope can heal all that has been lost?" She swallowed, her hands balled into fists. "No healing happens without facing the wound. We failed you. My ancestors' fear twisted the land, and we hid from that shame in memory. But now I see, to heal, we must bear witness, not just remember." The guardian's branches drooped in a sigh. "Show me. Bear the pain and endure it with open eyes. Only then may you lead your people anew." Lys shut her eyes. She let the raw ache of the blight bloom inside her heart. felt the dying fields, the emptiness of lost friends, the creeping guilt that she was not enough. For a long moment all she knew was grief, soft, smothering, infinite as the roots deep below. It almost swallowed her. But through the shadows, Lise heard her father's lullaby and the laughter of children by the river. She reached, not for escape, but for those bright fragments of hope. "This pain isn't just mine or yours," she whispered to the grove. "It belongs to everyone, and it must be faced together." As her words faded, the ancient guardian wept golden sap. The roots pulsed and split, pain surging skyward, and then dissolving, drawn up into the tree's trembling heart. Around Lys the spiral path unfurled, throwing wide the golden gates. "You have done what none dared," the ancient guardian intoned. "You named the pain and answered it with hope. Go, teach your people the whole truth, and the grove will heal by their memory." The spectral guardians gathered round, pride shining in their ethereal faces. The bark child pressed its small hand into hers. "Remember, Lys, sorrow shared is sorrow lightened. If the valley's people walk with you, the blight will never again take root." Sunlight pierced the upper boughs for the first time in generations. Leaves quivered, seeds germinated. As Lys emerged into dawn, she found herself at the edge of the valley. The Gilded Grove behind her, golden light streaming over fields already seed-thick and green with possibility. Villagers ran to her in wonder and fear. Lys gathered them, telling the story of all she had endured in the grove, not just legend, but truth, pain, and the path to forgiveness. Together they wept, remembered, and at last planted new seeds, not just in the earth, but in their own stubborn hearts. As the years passed, the valley flourished. Lys became both botanist and guardian, guiding her people to keep the old wounds open to the sun, so nothing rotten or forgotten could fester in the dark again. And at every full moon, a single golden leaf would flutter from the grove to her window, reminding her always of the price, the promise, and the hope at the heart of all things that grow.